Hello, we're at Donington Park for the penultimate rounds of the 2014 Grove and Dean Radical SR3 Challenge. It's been a close, competitive season where no one driver or team has dominated. We caught up with some of the drivers before racing got underway.
Started racing Radicals this year, first time for me in this kind of car, so more like a sports car, that kind of style of racing as well, so more endurance style racing as opposed to single-seater racing that I'm used to. So for me in my career, this has really been a beneficial year. Learning this style of racing, and looking for what my future holds as a racing driver. Realistically, GTs is the major option for me. So it's been perfect in learning how to, learning about strategy and finding time in other aspects, so driver changes and pit entry and out laps and all that kind of stuff, and overlaps. So it's an aspect of racing that I've not experienced before. Obviously, coming from a single-seater background, it's really just an all-out sprint, and just get to the line as quick as you can. Whereas now you're more thinking about track position and where we're going to hand over and trying to find a gap behind us to either drop me into or drop Nick into. For this particular race, Nick's chosen to race in the Clubman Series, so it leaves me solo in the UK Cup, which has obviously given me a great opportunity. Qualifying has been reasonable. I think I should have been on pole for both, but my own mistakes. It's the first time I've been back on the Grand Prix circuit since 2011, so I was straight into qualifying, so it was a little bit of a relearning process, so starting third for both races tomorrow.
So the way the grid lines up is that Peter Belshaw sits there on pole position, Lewis Plato is alongside, row 2 of the grid Scott Mulvern and Stuart Moseley, and row 3 Andy Cummings and father and son pairing. It's Brian Harvey that will start behind the wheel of the car. It's a rolling start also for the Radical SR3s. The race is about to get itself underway, and already by the look of things, the black car with the yellow helmet, Stuart Moseley, looking to attack. Up towards Redgate Corner they'll go. It looks as though Peter Belshaw has hung on from pole position to the lead of the race, but sneaking his way through has gone Lewis Plato. So the yellow car of Lewis Plato, with a point to prove this weekend, looking to try and hang on in touch in terms of the overall championship, is through and into the lead of the race in the early stages as the field thread their way out of the old hairpin for the first time. Heading out of Coppice Corner, looking as though the lead three have just broken away here. The yellow car, number 77, Lewis Plato, leads. Peter Belshaw, who leads the championship with his driving partner, British GT racer Phil Keane, sitting there in second place, and Scott Mulvern, they're in third at this stage. Stuart Moseley is in fourth place, and it's the father and son pairing of Brian and Tom Harvey, the orange car, that complete the top five, as they're already starting to turn their way out of the right-hander on the Grand Prix loop, that being the Melbourne hairpin. The battle is certainly on though for second place. Scott Mulvern looking to try and assert himself ahead of Peter Belshaw, who tries to defend, but he's on the outside line heading round through Goddard's Corner. So the job is done for the former British Formula Ford champion. Scott Mulvern up into second position, now looking to try and hunt down the leader of the race. Just heading through shot there is Graham Tilley, a little bit further down through the order. Under pressure also from David Franklin by the look of things. Well, with the race leader getting away, it's this trio that are formed now for second, third and fourth position. Scott Mulvern trying to defend from Peter Belshaw, who would like to attack. He's certainly got to defend. He's got the black machine, number 17 of Stuart Moseley, not overly far away. Also further down through the order, Shahin Nuri coming under pressure from number 6, which is Andy Cummins, and it looks so Nuri runs wide heading out of the old hairpin. Position lost as far as he's concerned. Our race leader, though, still stretching his legs all of the time, continuing to pull away, is Lewis Plato, while Scott Mulvern in second place has got a little bit more daylight now, hasn't he, between himself and Peter Belshaw, who will try and hang on to the coattails of Scott Mulvern. Driving solo this weekend, usually shares the car with Nick Jones. But Scott doing all 40 minutes of this Grove and Dean Radical SR3 challenge race on his own, and he's doing superbly well, but he still cannot shake away the current championship leader, that being Peter Belshaw. Through Goddard's once more. Peter Belshaw will hand the car over to Phil Keane at some point during this race, so order still remains the same. Still leading the race is Lewis Plato, still Scott Mulvern there in second place. Further down through the order, Shahin Nuri and Andy Cummins are still having their race-long battle. Lock brakes from Andy Cummins, leaving the door open with Shahin Nuri, saw him coming. Through the Craner curves they come. Lewis Plato raising the dust through the Craner curves. And well, where is Lewis Plato? There he goes, into the gravel trap at the bottom of the old hairpin. Our race leader, by the look of things, is out of the race. A trip all the way through the gravel and right up towards the tyre wall. Further down through the order, this green car here, James Abbott, has made great progress through the field. James started down in 10th position and has worked tirelessly hard trying to propel the green number 71 car up through the field. He is now ahead of number 17 Stuart Mosley. So this will be the battle at this stage in the race now for what is going to be 3rd and 4th positions. James Abbott in 3rd, Stuart Mosley there in 4th place, getting ever closer to James ahead, as there, thankfully walking away from what was a very scary looking accident, goes Lewis Plato. Fingers crossed they'll be able to get the car repaired for race number 2 a little bit later on. Since taking the position, James Abbott, you can see, is pulling away now from number 17 Stuart Mosley, who's still pedalling as hard as he possibly can. But the pit stops are about to happen. Into the pit lane comes Shahin Nuri. Also into the pit lane comes number 57 Stephen Boyles. It's getting rather busy as well, isn't it, as Wesley Fongile comes into the pit lane as well. Out of the pit lane goes father and son pairing, that being Brian and Tom Harvey. And into the pit lane comes Scott Mulvern. So Scott Mulvern, who we heard from prior to the race, knew that he had got a bit of work to do. He remains behind the wheel of the car number 76 and should be in a good position here, potentially, to take up the lead of the race following the conclusion of all of the pit stops. There down the pit lane goes Stuart Mosley, about to conclude his pit stop, but it will be Scott Mulvern, now that the vast majority of pit stops have cycled, that should reassert himself back into the lead of the race, looking for a maiden win in the 2014 Radical SR3 Challenge, all through the gravel trap. Up at Coppice Corner goes the orange car. That is Tom and Brian Harvey's car. And we now see coming into the pit lane from the lead of the race, James Abbott about to hand over to Father Phil. So they will lose the lead of the race unless they can get out of the circuit back onto the track ahead of Scott Mulvern. Well, they haven't managed to do so, so Scott Mulvern it is now that heads up the lead of the race in the Radical SR3 Challenge. And well, here is the battle for what is 2nd and 3rd position. Phil Abbott fighting away now with Hugh Sun Kim. And off and into the gravel trap by the look of things, having rotated the car through 180 degrees, goes number 5, which is Graham Tilley. So the safety car comes out as a result of the position at which Graham Tilley's car has come to rest. Thankfully, Graham okay. That was just on the way out of the Fogarty S's. It's bunched the field up, and it allows that car, number 17, Hugh Sun Kim, to close up on those around. We're about to go racing once more, though. Scott Mulvern weaving from side to side, trying to keep some temperature in the tyres. Opts to thump the accelerator pedal to the floor. We go back racing once more, and you can see it's been a great restart from Scott Mulvern. Well and truly ahead of the car that resides there in 2nd place. That's the number 4 car. Ignore the car ahead, that being Wesley Fongine. He is a lap adrift.
First season of motorsport for you guys?
Yeah, very first season, never raced before. These are my first ever races, so only my 2nd race at Donington.
Well, all the very best. Fingers crossed for the rest of the race. Tom Harvey there.
So just having heard from Tom Harvey, now his father behind the wheel of the orange car, Brian, is having to do defensive work here. However, he's lost 4th position. Number 44, Shahin Nuri, has gone through and has claimed 4th place. The checkered flag is flying, and it is going to be Scott Mulvern that will come through and claim his first win of the 2014 season. But it's a solid 2nd place, though, for the current championship leaders, Phil Keane and Peter Belshaw. Confirmation of the result. Scott Mulvern claims the first win. Peter Belshaw and Phil Keane are there in 2nd place, with Phil Abbott and James Abbott completing the top 3. Shahin Nuri was in 4th place, head of the Harveys, and Stuart Mosley and Hugh Sun Kim. The drivers on the podium, all looking very, very happy indeed.
Yeah, I managed to steal the lead, still 2nd away from Phil quite early on. And then obviously Lewis going into the scenery obviously meant that I just took the lead fairly easily. Really was just about managing the gap from there and just trying to save the tyres for this afternoon.
So having retired from the lead of race 1, Lewis Plato lines up on pole position for race 2 with number 71 driven by James Abbott alongside. Race 1 winner Scott Mulvern is there on row 2 of the grid, and sitting alongside is where we see number 4 driven in this first part of the race by Phil Keane. The pace car peels its way into the pit lane. The yellow car of Lewis Plato on pole accelerates towards the red lights, which are extinguished now, and by the look of things James Abbott is trying to assert himself in second position here. Scott Mulvern though is hugging the right hand side of the circuit as they head up towards Redgate Corner for the first time, and as they all feed their way through the right hander, it is Lewis Plato that leads the race. Onto the top of the Craner curves they go. Lewis Plato leads. Scott Mulvern, race 1 winner, is there in second place, but nipping at his heels all of the time is that dark green number 71 car in the hands of James Abbott, with Phil Keane completing the top 4 at this stage of the race. There goes number 47, Andrew Ferguson, who's had a solid weekend, but already Lewis Plato looking to try and make amends for the misfortune that fell his way in race 1. He leads the race. Scott Mulvern there in second place. Then it's James Abbott from the light blue, black and white car number 4 in the hands of Phil Keane. Shahin Nuri is there in 5th position. And elsewhere down through the order, a good scrap between David Franklin and the Harvey's orange machine in the early stages of this race. Out of the Melbourne hairpin and up towards the conclusion of the lap they come. The front 2 looking to try and pull away from those behind. So through the left-hander that concludes the lap here at Donington Park, and it looks as though Lewis Plato has an increased advantage. Scott Mulvern there in second place, coming under pressure from James Abbott, who isn't really going to be close enough on the run up towards Redgate Corner to do a great deal about it. And as for the squabble in race 1 between Andy Cummins and Shahin Nuri, well, it would appear they're evenly matched for pace in race 2 as well, because the two of them have been reasonably inseparable throughout the courses of the early stages of this race. Towards Redgate Corner go that pair there. The car that sits behind them looks as though it's number 5, Graham Tilley. They're fighting over what will be at this stage 4th, 5th and 6th positions as they feed their way down through the Craner curves and through the right-hander at the old hairpin. Shahin Nuri, number 44, has had a solid season so far, but the safety car is coming out, and the reason the safety car is coming out is because Scott Mulvern's car has gone missing somewhere around the circuit. So bringing the race to a neutralised status whilst that is recovered. You can also see that in the pit lane the drivers started to get suited and booted. Bradley Ellis there walking down the pit lane. The man with the headphones on is Stuart Mosley, who walks past Phil Abbott. So they're all starting to build up towards the pit stop window. The safety car, the lights are out, so we're about to go racing once more as James Abbott gets close and makes contact with the tail end of Lewis Plato, heading round through Goddard's corner. I think James Abbott was just caught out there, thinking that Lewis Plato was going to accelerate out of the corner. Well, he slowed up slightly, and the two of them just made the briefest of contact. Over the start-finish sign they go, racing back underway here. And you can see that the lead pair are threading their way down through the Craner curves. A very slight amount of damage to the front end of number 71, James Abbott's car. I don't think it will overly affect the handling. Equally as much, it doesn't look as though Lewis Plato has come away with a great deal of damage either. Just the briefest of bounces between the two of them. You can see the lead 3 starting to pull away. Plato leads. Abbott's there in second place. It's Phil Keane in third. Andy Cummins, the black and yellow car, just at the back of the screen, sitting there in 4th place, coming under pressure still from Shahin Nuri. They're still trying to sort out who's going to finish 4th and 5th in this race, of which we still have a long way to go, because the pit stop window is just about upon us. We've got a spin for the Harvey's car, number 8, father and son pairing Brian and Tom, whilst the lead trio press on up towards the conclusion of the lap. Onto the brakes, in towards the left-hander at Goddard's they'll go. And into the pit lane, ops to come, number 6, which is Andy Cummins, ready to hand over to former British GT champion Bradley Ellis. Number 47, Andrew Ferguson, also dives for the pit lane this time through. So Andy Cummins comes to a halt. He's extracted from the car by Bradley Ellis. Well-rehearsed pit stops in the case of this particular team. Wesley Fongini also in the pit lane, fires the number 40 car back into life, and will very shortly feed his way back out onto circuit, just behind the car that's now in the hands of Bradley Ellis. So back out of the pit lane go 3 of the cars that have opted to stop nice and early. Also into the pits there, by the look of things, is Graham Tilley. Phil Abbott is ready to go as well. And there is the man that's just vacated the number 6 car, that being Andy Cummins. Into the pit lane comes Lewis Plato from the lead of the race. That means that now going through into the lead of the race, it will be the dark green car in the hands of James Abbott. Still is yet to stop though. Tyre pressures being adjusted on Lewis Plato's car. Shahin Nuri heads for the pit lane as well, whilst Lewis Plato still remains behind the wheel of the car. counted down. Out onto the circuit goes Lewis Plato. Shahin Nuri in 3 or 4 seconds time will also head back out onto circuit. So now it's really just the car number 71 in the hands of James Abbott that needs to come in and hand over to father at some stage, and into the pit lane he comes. You can see the damage to the front end of the car. James dives out of the car, driver that's been competing in the MSA Formula Ford Championship of Great Britain this year. Dad, that being co-founder of Radical Sports Cars, Phil, heads behind the wheel for the second stint of the race. Being strapped in is he, and very shortly the engine will fire its way into life. The thumbs up is given. Back out onto circuit goes Phil Abbott this time. So with everybody having completed their mandatory pit stops, the last few just feeding their way out of the pit lane. That includes number 4, which is now driven by Pete Belshaw, who of course jointly leads the championship. Lewis Plato heads over the start finish line. He still continues to lead the race at this stage. This is now the battle for what is second and third position. Bradley Ellis trying to keep at bay Stuart Mosley, who's trying to reel in the car ahead. As they head over the start finish line, you can see in the twilight almost here, the light beginning to fade at Donington Park for what is the penultimate rounds of the season for the Grove and Dean Radical SR3 Challenge. Over the start finish line comes number 40, which is Wesley Fongeli, who is battling away with Graham Tilley, and also in the mix as well is an orange car, number 8 of the Harveys. They're fighting for what will be 9th and 10th positions rather. Whilst the leading train of cars are just feeding their way through the old hairpin. Out of the right-hander they'll go, start to climb uphill towards McLean's corner. Still this fabulous battle going on between the number 40 car of Wesley Fongeli and number 5 Graham Tilley, as they continue to vie over who is going to finish in 8th and 9th positions respectively at this stage of the race. Here comes though, up towards the braking area for Goddard's, the battle between number 71, that being Phil Abbott, and Shahin Nuri. It is going to be a win though, the 6th of the season for Lewis Plato. He comes through and claims the win here at Donington Park. In second position over the start finish line is going to be the pairing of Andy Cummings and Bradley Ellis, who have a great run to finish in second position. In the fading light at Donington Park, Lewis Plato claims the win. Cummings and Ellis are there in second place, and third place goes the way of Stuart Mosley and Hugh Sun Kim, their first podium visit of the season.
Lewis, disappointment in race 1. Race 2, you did what you needed to do. That keeps the championship alive.
Yeah, definitely. It was a really good race. Shenbrook race 1, but can't do anything about it. And I just went out there, thought all I've got to do is go and win the race. So, push hard as I can, get consistent laps, make sure the start was good. And the team done a great job with the car, so gave me everything I could do.
Yeah, other than the pit stop window, it was a lights to flag victory.
Yeah, no, very happy. Can't really do any better than that, so very happy with overall job in the weekend.
Andy, it didn't go to plan in race 1. Race 2, you brought the car and handed over to Bradley in a perfect position.
Yeah, race 2, I just forgot what happened in race 1. Got my head down. Safety car obviously helped us, but my times were good. I was keeping Shahin behind me and just kept going, and then it was over to the big man to do the rest.
Yeah, you handed the car over in perfect position to Bradley, who brought it home for second place. Bradley, we've seen a chunk of you two on the podium, but that elusive win hasn't come as yet this year.
No, not yet. Hopefully we can still get one because there's still a round to go, so we're still going to be fighting for it.
Kim, your first podium of the season, well done.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that was a target for this year with Stuart, so that sticked. I have no choice for next year now. I've got to carry on.
Yeah, he'll give you a little choice. And you've reached the target with 2 races still to go.
Just 1 race, right?
Well, 2.
2, okay. Yeah, so we'll try to repeat.
Try to repeat that at Cadwell Park. And yeah, Stuart, great to see the smile on your face. It's been a long time coming, hasn't it? And the driver that you're tutoring has just come on so well this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously been the main aim. Obviously, when we first started at Donington at the beginning of the year, it was a real tough baptism of fire because he suddenly did his ARDS test about a week before, didn't you? So it was kind of straight in at the deep end, Club Cup and SR3 Challenge straight away the first weekend. And to get to the podium in a series where actually at the front it's really tough. And so for him to achieve that at some point during his first season, I think it's a real good target for us to aim for. So we just got to go one better now at Cadwell Park.
So the win for Lewis Plato still keeps the championship alive, but Peter Belshaw and Phil Keed will head to Cadwell Park with a handy lead of 206 points over Lewis Plato on 169, who's there in second.
We've had a great day's racing here in the Grove and Dean Radical SR3 Challenge at Donington Park, and Lewis Plato's win keeps the championship alive as it heads to Cadwell Park in Lincolnshire for its final 2 races of the year.